Okay, here we are inside MatrixGold. This will be the first of the beginner series. I thought I'd start it. There was a comment that asking for a beginner series, so I'm going to go ahead and start from the very basics and move on. So today in this video, first I'm going to turn on timer. I'm going to try to keep these videos fairly short and not too long, but try to give you as much information as I can. Today in this video here, we're going to talk about the command history, command prompt, and user interface. So let's get started. I think a lot of people like to know, especially coming from MatrixGold or Matrix, old Matrix, is the command prompt, right? So the command prompt, when you first load it up, I think this is default settings, is at the bottom, right? And a lot of people like to move the command prompt. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this one right away. So if you type in command prompt and hit enter, right away you have options. Choose command prompt options. So you can go to position here and you can toggle, and then you can put it at the top. Excuse me. You can move it to the top. You can also have it floating. So you can move it around wherever you want. Maybe you want it in the middle for some reason, or you can toggle it on and off. Yeah, so I just keep mine at the bottom. I don't think it really makes a big difference to me. But after you get it located and after you do the other changes that we're going to show, you are able to go to, which brings us to the main thing here, is the big M, right? The main menu. So the main menu here, you can start new files. You can also open a file that you have maybe downloaded from another website or that you want to import. You can have all your save options, of course. You can submit it straight to a CAD/CAM installer. Import, exporting, we'll talk about all that later. Collections, you can go to your collections, which we'll talk about later. Again, this is just going to be a real quick explanation of what's available. So legacy, the Matrix, old Matrix people will be using this to load in all their files and everything from the old Matrix programs. Those two. I would just use the legacy Matrix migration wizard, and it'll load all your profiles and all your items that you have saved and everything from your old Matrix into the MatrixGold. You can also come down here to view, and right away you have two options right off the bat. You can go to your primary, which kind of gets rid of all the boxes and everything. And if you're just using commands, like you know your command options, you don't really need all the other stuff. So you can choose from those two views. And let's go back here and get this larger. And also you can load the ribbons on the side that you might want. So if you go in here, go to your view, you can load the animation studio up over there. You can go through and pick which ones you want, which ones you don't want. Batch render, all of them are available for you to turn on and off. The ones that I usually always keep on are dynamic commands, display modes, of course. Those two you use quite often. Dynamic groups, maybe not so much, but it's not a bad thing. Gem report, I just click on and off. Layers, definitely, because you'll be changing layers all the time. Metal weights, I just click on and off. Projects, definitely, so you can save right away or whatever. Properties, definitely, because I always check the properties, make sure things are closed or whatever, and we'll talk about that more in detail. Quick commands, definitely, it makes it easier to pick items. Recent commands can be helpful, but there's other ways you can do that. Render studio, a ring resizer, I just click on and off as needed. And of course, you definitely want the ribbon, unless, like I say, you know the command line options that are available. And then you can save your layouts. Again, like I said, save it so that you can reload. And if you have multiple users using one program, you can have them all have their own individual saved layouts, however they like their layout. So that's probably the first place you want to check out. Also, one other thing real quick. I think it's in edit, preferences. So you can open your preferences from here, and you can go through and pick other ones. You can go, actually they're all over, the preferences all over, but like this one here, quick commands, it will load up the quick commands, but you can still go back there and change. So you can open it up pretty much. Any cog will open up the preferences, and then you can go back and change. The last one, real quick, status bar. Status bar down here is the bottom part, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But if you want to see, what do you want to see in your status bar, right? So there's all the grid snaps, all these options that you can click on. If you don't want them on, you just click them off, and it'll hide those options for you. And then the last thing here in this one I want to talk about is troubleshooting. Troubleshooting here, if you have any issues with MatrixGold, you can just go right in here and reset the interface, reset Rhino. You can reset pretty much all of them. This is where I would go to first if you're having issues, and then you know, call support or something. This might go ahead and fix it for you. You don't have to really waste the time to wait for support to give you a call back. They're very good about getting back with you, and actually very good when they need to get on and do a share with you, where they're fixing your program while you're online with them. They're very good at that. So that's kind of that area. Now let's talk about the interface here. Of course, you have your ribbon going across, and if you use your scroll, you can scroll through your ribbon commands. You can also, the ones with the little lightning bolt there are all your parametric commands, and the ones without are a non-parametric. And if you're wanting to design something all parametric, sometimes it's good to just go ahead and click this little lightning bolt here, and then it will just load all your parametric commands so that it will stay totally 100% parametric. This is a good way to just really start to use the program and just use your parametric commands to get going. That way, if you're wanting to change things, you know, 100 times, it's really quick and easy to do, and you keep everything parametric and dynamic. But if you go through and click, you can see it's just loading all those parametric commands that you can use. So that's that lightning bolt option over there. And then as far as getting your interface the way you want it, right? Maybe there's some things, you know, you're tired of scrolling down all the way to the end to find certain items or whatever. You're able to just go in and move things around very easily. So let's see, there's a command I use quite often, if I can find it here real quick. Oh, the blend curve, I already moved it. But let's say, okay, your circle. Let's say your circle you want up by your box. It's down. So all you do is click on it and drag it over, and then drop it, and it'll rearrange it. And you don't have a lot of those commands in your quick commands. Maybe you don't want to keep going back up to your ribbon and scrolling through stuff. You could just take that command, click on it, left click, and then drag it over and drop it into your quick commands. And then of course you can rearrange them however you want. Say you want this one up here, you want to move them around however you want. You can do that. So you're able to go ahead and move everything around and get it exactly the way you want it. And if you want, you know, sometimes you grab them and maybe you drag it off and it takes it out of your dynamic quick commands, right? You can just go ahead and click on that cog there, and you can go here and click which ones you want to see, and then lock them. So you can lock them all. So now if I go over here and click it, I can't drag them off, right? Which let's abort that. I don't need that. So you can't drag them off. You're unable to drag them off. So it's a good way to be able to, make sure that those aren't messed with after you get it all exactly how you want it, I guess. And the next one down, quick commands, and we talked about the ribbon. A little bit more about the ribbon. You have some commands with little arrows underneath them, right? So if you click on those arrows, it'll give you your more ribbons or more options for each one of those. So there's other sub options of each one that you're able to get. Also, if you there's another way to look at them too, is if you click on it, you have options down here in your command line that you can that are basically in here as well, but it's just another way to be able to click on those and use them. So switch to how manipulate the commands basically. All right, now let's see, we talked about the ribbon. Go through here, just click through, no problem, no big deal. Quick commands done. Projects, this is where you'll job bag things to save things. There's two ways to save them, a full and just a job bag. Job bag pretty much saves all the normal stuff, the item and everything. But if you're really wanting to save everything, the hidden layers and all the dynamic commands and everything, it's probably better to do a full save. But the job bags can come in very handy to be able to save things as you're going along as well. Next one here is layers, changing layers. So you can take that and you can change it to any layer you want by clicking on the arrow. So if you select it and then click on it, it'll change to whatever layer you want. And you can actually hide those layers, or you can lock those layers. So now I cannot even select it at all because it's locked. And those options are very good at certain times, so you'll need to definitely be aware of them. And then down here at the very bottom, I have my display modes. So let's see, let's grab a solid here real quick. Just get a box, draw a box out here, and I'll go to my shaded mode. So you can change it to different modes, wireframe. And if you right click on it, it changes all perspectives. If you left click on it, it only changes the active one. So if I take this one, I click on it, it's just changed. Left click on it, it's changing only the one. But if you right click, it changes all of them. So right click and then left click, only one. All right. And then while we're here, you are able to adjust your viewport, your user interface however you want. So like if you want to rearrange these, you can pull them off and move them around, have them floating if you want, or you can bring them over and snap them to certain areas of the interface. So make it your own. You can make it your own design. And the same thing goes over here. You can take them and move them around however you want. And I'll just do that right there. So there's all different kinds of ways. And of course, if you mess it up, it's no big deal. You can always go back and go to your view and reset Windows layout. And it goes back to the way it was. So I'm going to take this one and move it up here because that's where I like it. And the rest I really don't care too much where they're at. And let's see. Okay, so you can move those around. And then over here on this side, you have your recent commands, which you can turn on with your view over here or off. Recent commands, where's it at? Recent command, you can turn it off if you want, or you can turn it on over here in your main menu. And then of course you can drag those wherever you want as well. No big deal. These are kind of the four I usually have on. Dynamic groups I really don't use that much, but every once in a while I do go back in. Dynamic groups I should say. Dynamic commands I use all the time. Properties I use all the time. Recent commands, we'll talk about that in just a second. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, down here at the bottom is your status bar. And down here you have a lot of different items. I'm running out of time here. So let's take this for example real quick, and I'll change my layer to yellow by clicking on it. So now my yellow. But if I wanted to change that, I click the arrow, right? So I'm going to change that back to green and keep my layer on yellow. And I am going to, well, we'll talk about that in another video. Changing viewports, that'll be the next video, which is really cool. There's some really cool things you can do in there. Let's talk about the status bar here. Down here you have a lot of different, what version you're on, of course, the name of the file that you're on, project name and everything, a timer that you can work with. Right now we're at 15 minutes. I'm way behind. Here you have auto hide. Let's go to tools, grab a ring rail, hit enter. And then I'm going to grab a profile, place on there, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter. Actually, I'm going to go to that profile, go to my edit, and I'm just going to do an auto sweep right away. All right, and then hit enter. Okay, and then I'll grab a extract ISO curve from this surface, and I'll just place it right there in the middle and hit enter. And then I will take that curve and go to gems and gems on curve, which all this we'll talk about more in detail later, and just kind of drag it around. And I want to lower that down a little so it's in there, and then I'll click on those gems. I'll right click on my gems there, go to cutters, go to my cutter there, and I'm just going to real quick drag that out a little bit, and we'll just take that. All right, so right now I'm going to turn off auto hide. Right, this is something that is very useful. So let's just do that boolean again. So we go to our solids. Boolean means to cut something out, so we're going to boolean difference this. We're going to cut this out. So we're going to take this surface, which will be cut, hit enter, by this surface, and hit enter, and it cuts it out, and I hit enter. You can see it did not go away, right? My cutter did not go away. So if I hide my cutter, select my ring right there and delete it, there's my cutout, right? So that's with it off, okay? So let's go back and put that cutter back out there. Oh, I turned it off, okay. There, okay. Go back one more. Where's my cutter? Let's go forward. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to turn on auto hide. Okay. So let's do that same thing. We're going to go to Boolean difference. We're going to cut this surface with this surface and hit enter. Right away, it hides my cutter, right? Basically, it's just hidden over here. So if I go here, I can show it. Well, usually show it. Show. But it's not. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay. But it'll automatically hide it for you. So you don't have to go back and do all that extra work of hiding it or getting rid of it. It's just automatically hide it. So that's a good option to have on occasion. Grid snaps. Let's go to our top view here. And grid snaps, let's grab a little line curve so we can kind of demonstrate this. And I have a line curve, and right now my grid snaps are off. So if I turn on my grid snaps, I have different options available. So if I click one, each one of these little boxes inside the bigger box that's 5 by 5, and each one of these little boxes is 1 by 1. And as you can see, my point is snapping right to those points or those square edges, right? That's 1 millimeter, but I can change it to 0.5 millimeter. So now you can see it's snapping to each 0.5 millimeter wherever I go, even in the center, wherever I move it. Or you can change it to 1/4, which takes it to 4, and again it goes any direction you want, or you can change it into 1, right? So really small increments, or you can just have none. Grid snaps are good for certain things when you want things lined up exactly a certain place. Ortho we'll talk about at another time. Planar, I have another video on planar and project you can check out. O-snaps is one that you'll be using quite often, and right now I have a line, so I'll just take a line, and if I right click on my mouse I bring back that command. So if I pick end, my point or will snap right to that point, right? So any end point it'll snap to, which is very important, and we'll discuss this here in the videos coming up. And you can put near, which will snap it kind of, even if you go off a little bit, it kind of snaps it right to the item. Any near, okay. And then point, we don't have any points out there. Mid, you can go to click on your mid snaps, and it'll snap to the mid. So I can snap to this mid, to that mid, you know, so that those are very useful. Center is another one we'll talk about when we talk to circles. Intersection's a good one. So if I right click, you can have multiple on at the same time. I'm just showing them individually. So if I go to intersect, any intersection where the lines intersect, it will snap to. And that's very useful. So that's that. Perpendicular, we'll talk about that later. Tangency, we'll talk about later. Quad is for circles. Not vertex project, we'll talk about later. And then of course, if you don't need any of them, you can just disable them, or you can turn them off here. So you can disable them here if you want to work on something, and then just turn them back on. Okay. Next one, project. Project, we'll talk about it another time. It projects everything to the C-plane. Smart track, those are helpers, which we're going to talk in depth about in another video. Gumball is a good one. I have another video on that, so check that out if you want to know more about that. But the gumball, if with that clicked on, it will give you your gumball. And there's all kind of things you do for this with this. The most of the things you'll be doing is 2D'ing it, rotating, moving, and then 3D scaling. So you can hold down shift, click on the checkerboard, and it'll scale it. Okay. So that's, like I said, I have another video that goes into depth on the gumball, so check that out. And then record history is a good one to have on, but sometimes you don't want it on, and we'll talk more about the reasons why you want it and the reasons why you don't want it. But most of the time you'll probably have it on. It's good to have. Next thing is, let's take this curve and let's go here to duplicate it. And I'm just going to duplicate it in place. And I'm going to take this one and do the same thing and duplicate it in place. Okay. Super select. That's this here. So super select, you can select all your curves. You can go through there, select all open curves. There's all kind of options you have, but the best one here is select duplicate objects. And if I select duplicate objects, you can see it chooses those two duplicate objects that I have out there, and I can just delete them. And now duplicate objects will not be oh, there's maybe, yeah, they're still okay. Hit let me hit duplicate objects, and then I'm going to delete them. And it broke history, but that's okay. Now, when I go in here, duplicate objects is not listed. So check if something's not going good. Occasionally go over here and check to see if you have duplicate objects, because that'll kind of mess things up, especially if you're doing booleans, which is cutting things, and you go and say, okay, I want, maybe that's all this color here, the cutting layer, right? So that's a cutting layer. So you think that that's the only one you have, but maybe you have a duplicate, and you collect all of them and try to do a boolean. It'll blow on you sometimes. So maybe check your see if there's any kind of duplicate objects. Another one here is the context menu. Context menu brings up all kinds of commands that kind of are relevant with what you're working with. And you can actually input your own into here as well, which we'll talk about later. You can go to certain categories of the commands. So those are kind of useful. A lot of people kind of dock this someplace or place it out here. You can pin it wherever they want, and they kind of just use this instead of going through a lot of times. But there's another way to bring it up besides clicking here. You can go to your F6 command. So if you type in F6, it'll bring up the context menu as well. So again, that's F6. All right, and then scale. You can scale your interface. So if you're really wanting to manipulate it however you want, you can change all the how your interface looks. And again, after you get everything in order, all you have to do is go in there, view, save layout as, right? And it'll save that layout for you, however you want to set it up, right? So that's that. And I think that's it. And preferences. So, okay, I'm a little 26 minutes, a little over, but hopefully that'll give you a good kind of starting point. What's what, where it goes, how to arrange your viewport. There is one last thing, actually two last things, and actually these are probably pretty cool ones. So if you stuck around this long, you're in for a treat. So if I type in command history, right, I can bring up my command history over here. So everything I've done with this video here so far is all in here. Everything I've done. And you are able to actually go in here and take commands, and you can copy them, and then you can paste. I'll close that out. Paste them in here. Paste, and you can delete things. So if I go in here, right click, paste, it deleted that line, right? That's one way, but that's not really the easiest way. The easiest and best way to go back and redo things is either your recent commands, because if you just got done doing something, you want another line curve, say, or you get a circle curve. You could just go in here and redo them, right? But there's even another way of doing it. If you go down here to your command line, you right click in your command line, it brings up all those recent commands. So now you have all the recent commands that you can bring up very quickly and easily see where they're at. And use them very quickly. So if I want to, hide line, I need another line out here, I could do that. If I come down here, I can just go around circle. So it's a real easy way to bring up recent commands very quickly, very easily. Yeah. Nice to know about. I don't think a lot of people know that they can actually bring up recent commands from there. And then I showed the command prompt already, so I think we're good, and I am sitting at 28 minutes, which is way too long for what I wanted. So hopefully that gives you a good foundation to get moving on it, and we'll move on to, I think the next one will be about viewports and ways to view things. So hopefully this helped. If it did, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and good designing. Thanks for watching.